Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, I'm Gary Null. Once again, we're here to share the latest on health and healing, how to live a longer and healthier life, and be happy in the process. The show is broken into about 4 different segments. We're broadcast worldwide, so I take a look at the needs of people around the world, in Asia and Africa, in Europe, not just in the United States. But I find that there's certain things we all share in common. For example, we all need the omega-3 fatty acids. And a new study published in a peer-reviewed journal from the China Pharmaceutical University shows that if you're diabetic, either male or female, or you are pre-diabetic, this could help protect you from dying from all causes. That's important. The study reveals a lower risk of dying from any cause during a follow-up period among people with diabetes who had a higher intake of the omega-3 fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA, in comparison to those who had little or none. The study was with 4,854 diabetic patients at the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and that went from 1999 to 2014. That's 15 years. That's a long follow-up period. The average age of men and women in the current study was 57 years of age. Now, realistically, that's not old unless you've been making inappropriate choices, in which case, then you could be near your death sentence, unfortunately. Remember, when they say the average life expectancy is, before COVID, about 78.4 years, more or less, that's because they're taking the oldest lived and the youngest to die, and they're averaging it. But now we've lost 3 years minimally because of COVID on our life expectancy. That takes us back almost 55 years. Yes, what our life expectancy was back then, now it is today. And it's going to get a lot worse because during that period of time, a lot of people did not exercise, ordered in a lot of junk food, packed on a lot of calories, and also were in a depressed or anxious state. Understandably so. There was a lot to be stressed about. People not knowing if they have jobs. A lot of people didn't have jobs because their businesses closed. What do you do then? You know, what happens when your unemployment runs out? What happens when you go into a city and we find that, you know, there's just nothing to do as far as your career and your background? So it's realistic to understand why we had such anxiety. And yet, can you tell me one single thing that was done for the vast majority of people to deal with depression and anxiety and stress? There was none. No. Just go to home, quarantine until you're so sick you have to go to the emergency room. So that played havoc with inflammation. The inflammation caused cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, catecholamines, adrenaline to go high and stay there. That meant that you had chronic 24/7 inflammation going on in the body, especially around the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and the brain. Needless to say, we were, in effect, during a 3-year period, we were prematurely aging our physical body. So now that at least we're past that, and now we have new things to face, we better pay more attention to getting ourselves as healthy and building up our immune system, because the threat of viruses, the threat of a new type of flu, the threat of something going wrong with our health is not over. But what is now at present is what we should be doing ourselves. So a healthy plant-based diet, turning off inflammation. How do you get inflammation? Simple. Alcohol. That's one of the biggest causes of inflammation. Smoking, whether it's cigarettes or marijuana, that's another major source of inflammation to the heart and to the lungs. And also get rid of the French fries and the pizzas. Seems impossible? Well, for a lot of people it is. But for those who care more about their health and life than they do about their appetite, then yeah, there's a lot of hope for you. So this study showed that DHA and EPA together, that's what you get when you have your omega-3 fatty acids, when you have a handful of walnuts or an avocado, or some almonds, or a fatty fish. That's where you get your omega-3 fatty acids. And you should really be taking them twice a day, once in the morning around 1,500 milligrams and once in the evening. Now, this is for normal consumption. A doctor, a dietitian, nutritionist may put you on higher doses based upon what you need. But if you do that, like this study, death rates from all causes substantially decreased. That's important, especially cardiovascular deaths and cancer deaths. So if you want to reduce your risk of dying from cancer and cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes, then something this simple, this inexpensive, just put it each day into your mind. You're going to have this. All right? So that is something that is important. Next up is a University of Delaware study, and it talked about if you are over the age, let's say, for argument's sake, 60, you should be drinking a specific type of juice every day. Why? You'll have a better memory. What kind of juice? A tart cherry juice. What is called the Montmorency cherries. They're the bitter cherries. Now, you can buy the juice unsweetened. You can buy the concentrate. That's even better. You get more of the power of the phytonutrients because they've wicked off a lot of the water. So they've concentrated it. That's what makes it concentrate. So by taking, I would suggest 2 tablespoons of tart Montmorency or tart cherry juice every day, it can make a huge difference in your health, especially removing gout and removing sleeplessness. Now, gout is not always in your big toe. It can be in your foot. It can be in your ankles. It can cause inflammation to flare up almost anywhere in the body. I'll give you just one example, and I've helped thousands of people with pro-inflammatory illnesses overcome them, one-on-one counseling. But this was with someone who was well known. I won't mention the person's name. And they called me one Saturday morning and said that they were sitting in that moment on the floor in their kitchen because they couldn't stand up and walk. The pain was so bad in both of their feet, especially in their toes. Their toes were very expanded and almost a purple color. And they didn't know if they should go to the emergency room, and I just asked a few questions. When did this happen? Well, it happened last night. Okay, what did you eat? Why does that have anything to do with this? It may or may not. So after explaining that that person that evening had ate in dinner in a restaurant that had one of the rare ones that have organ meats like kidney pie. And so I said, okay, so you had some kidneys last night. Yeah. All right. Did you have sugar? Yeah, had some sugar. All right. Then let's do this. For the next 24 hours, drink celery, cucumber, lemon, and ginger juice. All right? You have to make it yourself. Have your daughter, who lives with you there, go out, go to the health food store down the block from where you live, buy this and have a glass of this juice with pantothenic acid, 500 milligrams of pantothenic acid, a B complex, and once a day, but a vitamin C every 2 hours, 1,000 milligrams. Well, lo and behold, by about 8 hours, he called back and says, I don't know what this is, but it's gone. The swelling's gone, the pain's gone. I said, that was from the purines and the proteins building up and the byproduct causing massive inflammation. Now, in some people, that same inflammation occurs, but not in the toes. It can cause your ankles to swell. And the first thing you're going to be told is you have arthritis. You may or may not, but you do have inflammation. And to test whether you have arthritis, it's generally from taking too much protein. You can take too much fish. Now, mind you, if you went into a restaurant, and if I were there, and if you said to the waiter, I'd like a order of beef, okay? Then I would go in the kitchen, and I would say to the chef, here's how much beef that person needs based upon what the body can actually consume, because your body doesn't store protein. It stores fat. It stores a carbohydrate, It does not store its calories. The body doesn't store protein. To the contrary, those of you who are on high protein diets, you're overwhelming the body's metabolism with urea and ammonium, the breakdown products of what is called deaminization, when the amino acids cannot be stored, so they have to break down. That goes through the kidney and liver, and that causes some very toxic elements within the blood. And then that can end up causing a uric acid. And the uric acid can end up in your joints and feels like shards of glass, very painful. So, how much protein do you need to actually have your daily requirements? Or if you do it correctly, if you eat twice a day or 3 times a day, you portion it. If twice a day, you have half in the morning, half in the afternoon. 3 times a day, half in the morning, at lunch, and the early dinner. So your body's not overwhelmed. Now, I'm 6'2" and 170 pounds. My normal weight is about 185 to 190 when I'm building a lot of muscle. But when I'm doing training and putting in the long miles I do, my body slims down, lower percentage body fat. But I know what my body should be. And you don't want to be overweight, but you don't want to be underweight also. And a lot of people are on these starvation diets or bulimic or anorexic, and as a result, it's life-threatening. They can die from that, and do. When let's say you're a man, for example, and you're 5'10", and you weigh normally 160 pounds, that's fine. But then you decided you don't want to eat 3 meals a day, and you're anxious about different things, so you eat, and you overeat, and you eat at night. Not good. First, because you're going to adversely affect your sleeping patterns because of the body's in an anabolic state, building up, creating energy. So now you get your foot on the gas at the time when your foot should be on the brakes, catabolic, from about 9 o'clock at night to about 4 in the morning, you're catabolic. That's when we just get tired, unless there's something exciting us and we keep it up. But otherwise, we now start to go through this slow down, rest, sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, secrete melatonin from the pineal gland, stimulate your immune system, help stop all those free radicals in the body, help the body cleanse and shed off a lot of the cells, especially the intestinal cells or in the skin cells, and get the undigested ligocellulose, the fiber that's not digestible, and bacteria, and all that goes out in the morning. And that's a healthy, clean intestine and body. But when you're eating late at night, and especially something that has carbohydrate in it, you're fueling the metabolism, so you trick the brain thinking, I'm not going to go to sleep now, I'm going to be awake. And as a result, your metabolism speeds up and you have a hard time sleeping. That's not good. And that's why you should try to end your last meal of the day, ideally around 6 to 7 o'clock. You really need about 3 to 4 hours from the time you've consumed your last meal till you go to sleep, because otherwise you're just re-stimulating the body. And it's going against the natural circadian rhythms, the sleep-wake biological clock in the body. And then in the morning, coming around 4 to 5 o'clock, you start to go into an anabolic state. I need energy, put on the gas. And that's why we find ourselves really energized in the morning. That's when most people exercise. And that's when your brain is alert. And that's when a lot of friends of mine who are writers or creative people, they do some of their best creativity in the morning before the phone rings and when they're alone and the brain is open. It's flashing. I do some of my best writing early in the morning as well and working out. I'm just saying that when you then do it just the opposite and you sit down to a meal and you have a big piece of fish or a big piece of steak because you think you're getting more value. You know, I paid $10 and I want, $30 and I want, or $50 and I want something big. So we've gotten used to really filling our plate to fill our body, even though you're eating far more than what your body can process. The less you eat that your body needs, the healthier you are, the better your digestion. Therefore, you don't feel bloated and overwhelmed. In any case, if your body needs 9/10 of a gram per kilogram of protein a day, and let's just say that For me, that would be around 60 grams of protein, 60. All right. For most women, up to about 150 pounds, it's about 50, depending upon how athletic they are and whether they're doing weight training, et cetera, and their age. So now do the math. Let's just say that there's 16 ounces in a pound, which there is. And let's say that your steak is 8 ounces. Okay. Now 8 ounces, and it's 28.35 grams to an ounce. I'm not going to go through all the math, but what it is just, I'll round it off. I'll make it simple. You're getting 8 ounces. All right. And 8 ounces. And then you look at how many grams of protein that is. Wow. In 8 ounces of meat, the protein portion of meat, which is actually a small serving, you're getting a 2-day supply of protein in one meal, in one item. And that's how you cause the gut to slow down, which is bad. You want a nice movement of your food through your intestine. It's like being on a highway and suddenly you go from 75 to 5 miles an hour. That's when inflammation occurs between the putrefaction of an animal protein. Mind you, it doesn't ferment like your vegetables and your fruits ferment. No, and that creates probiotics and prebiotics. It rots. And at 97 degrees, more or less for most people, protein could be in your body 3 days, rotting. And hence the foul smells and the constipation, the pressure diseases causing hemorrhoids. So a healthy plant-based diet with lots of fiber and eating what you really can digest, you're regular, you live a longer life, and you don't have all this inflammation going on. So how much protein do you need in a meal from animals? Probably a large forkful. 1 forkful of meat would cover what you actually need. Well, could you imagine going into a restaurant, a guy brings you over, here's your protein, and you look and say, that's it? That's it? 1 forkful? But it's a large forkful. But I want something that when I finish, I can go into a coma, lay on a couch for 3 hours and slurp out the side of my mouth. Have bubbles coming out. No, that's all you need. Therefore, that's all you're getting. Well, you see what would happen. Now, the restaurant would probably be destroyed. So that is also what causes gout, inflammation, toxicity, autotoxemia in the intestine, killing the good bacteria and multiplying the bad bacteria. It's bad to the bone. I'm just giving you this. So this study at the University of Delaware finds evidence that daily servings of cherry juice can improve cognitive functioning and performance in older adults, as well as helping with arthritis, gout, and pro-inflammatory conditions in the body. Now, we didn't know that it would help with improving memory and cognition, especially if you're over the age of 60. And especially 65 up. But it does. So drink Montmorency tart cherry juice every day. All right? And this study showed that it works. Now, if you drank the juice, I would say 8 ounces. If you're taking the concentrate, I would say 2 ounces diluted in water. Then you can take 8 ounces in the morning, 8 ounces in the evening. That's what they did in this study for 12 weeks. And the other group were on a placebo, where they didn't improve in their memory, cognition, etc. So you see how you can take one item and show how it impacts us on many different levels. Also, by the way, tart cherry juice was shown to lower blood pressure. How about that? Think of all the people whose lives would be saved from having a stroke if they had that every day. And it also reduces blood pressure towards the brain. Good. Now, from Kyoto University School of Medicine, which of course is in Japan, your ability to balance on one leg reflects your brain health. Balancing on one leg may indicate if a person is at risk of dementia or stroke. So says this study. Those who struggle to balance on one leg for 20 seconds or longer are at an increased risk of small blood vessel damage in the brain and reduced cognitive function in otherwise healthy people with no clinical symptoms. So try this. This was sponsored by the American Heart Association's Journal Stroke. All right? Just get a stopwatch and see how long you can balance on your left leg and then your right leg. Then wait a few moments, stretch properly, and do it again. And if you can't maintain balance for 20 seconds, wow, that means that you have a hidden potential with no symptoms of causing you to die of a stroke or have dementia. Just saying, cerebral small vessel disease was evaluated using brain magnetic resonant imaging, MRIs, and they found that the inability to balance on one leg for longer than 20 seconds was associated with cerebral small vessel disease, and namely small infarctions without symptoms like small, tiny little strokes you're not even aware you have. These are called microbleeds, and not good. All right? So let's just be more conscious. Vitamin E can help. Coenzyme Q10, L-carnitine can help. Vitamin C and quercetin can all help with that. And finally, something that is found to inhibit lung cancer in mice from Okayama University in Japan. It is a juice. Let me spell it. SARUNASHI. Lung cancer is the leading cause of death in Japan because so many people smoke. And they smoke a lot, and they work a lot, and they're stressed a lot from their work. But also people smoke around the world. And among all the cancers, lung cancer has one of the lowest 5-year survival rates. Now, what is called sarunchi is an edible fruit cultivated in Japan's Okayama prefecture. Using a mouse model, the researchers from the university have shown that this juice is constituting a component of what we call isoquercetin, isoquercetin, the same quercetin, but this has a little different configuration, and that helps and reduce lung cancer. And so it's one of the richest sources of polyphenols and vitamin C. And previously it had been demonstrated to inhibit the effects of a mutagenesis, inflammation in mouse skin tumorigenesis. So just something to think about. You might want to look to see if you can order it. Most health food stores at this point don't have it. But frequently after I mention something that has good science backing it up with good results, people began to order it in from Japan. So put it on your list, something that works, that can help with lung cancer. And I've said many times that there is no such thing as being overweight and healthy. Now, that's different from people saying something to an overweight person to shame them, which you shouldn't do. Because just imagine what it's like to be overweight. Do you think they don't know they're overweight? Do you think they don't know when they look in a mirror how they look versus how they may have looked at one time? So if anything, be understanding and supportive of their efforts to lose the weight. But just so you understand, this is just the latest study from the Helmholtz Zentrum University in Germany. Extra pounds you gain during the holidays will not only show up on your hips, but will also affect your DNA. This is the result of a large-scale international study conducted with the German Center for Diabetes Research, and this was published in the most prestigious journal in the world, Nature. The study shows that a high body mass index, that's your belly fat, leads to epigenetic changes at nearly 200 loci of the genome, with the effects on gene expression. And while our genes do not change in the course of life, our lifestyle can directly influence their surroundings. Scientists speak here of the epigenome, the Greek epi, or over, outside or around, which refers to everything that happens on or around the genes. And for this reason, the international research team headed by a Dr. Christian Geiger, then examined the possible correlation between body mass index and the epigenetic changes. And using a state-of-the-art technology, the team carried out the world's largest study so far on the subject. They had blood samples from over 10,000 women and men from Europe. And then they took a look at it and they studied the impact and found that, wow, yeah, being overweight, more than what the body should be, what is called the body mass index, can make a huge difference because it can adversely affect your DNA methylation. Now, that said, this morning, after it had been independently collaborated with on several people, we got the first results in of our anti-aging blood study. They're not all in yet. They have to be done one at a time, but very positive results. Now, the big study is supposed to come in from the university next week, and I'll share it with the audience. This is the DNA methylation blood test we did before and after a 3-month study, and we'll see, were we able to reverse the biological clock and de-age a person's DNA? Literally, take it from, let's say, 70 years old backwards. And we've done all the other, we reversed the aging of the blood, we've reversed the aging of the body and the musculature and all the things they couldn't do before and they could now. But this is the final capstone to this study. I'm hopeful, and I can't see the results until they finished them and they're doing it at the university, and it's on its way. And this is the state-of-the-art place in the world to do this center. We've never had an opportunity to use it before, but because of the previous 4 studies, the positive results, they allowed us to use it. So I'll share it when I get it. And just remember, if you'd like the notes that I use every day to share with you so you can see where to get a study, to review it for yourself, additional information that you may not have written down, just go to GaryNull.com, scroll down where it says newsletter, and Monday's newsletter is free. And then throughout the rest of the work, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have a really extensive amount of information that we offer on commentaries, recipes, insights into the human condition. So that's it. We're going to take a break and come right back at you. Please stay with us.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.